What is the status of the title to your house? Most people answer with a resounding, well, I own it, of course. I'm talking about the importance of knowing the status so when the time comes to sell your house, or if it's inherited by a family member, or if you want to take out a loan against the property, you won't be hit with any surprises that lead to delays or confusion. Here are some examples of how a house can be owned. Of course, a married couple can own it together. In Texas, there's a presumption of community property, and it's presumed to be community property. There are situations where married couples own property together, but it might be an undivided separate property interest. For example, if a husband inherited property and he wanted his wife to own half, signs a deed to an undivided 1/2 interest in the property. That's getting a little complicated, but that's just something to keep in mind. Inherited property can still show up as being titled in the name of the deceased person, in which case there may need to be either a probate action or an affidavit of heirship to clear that up. Again, a lot of people may think, oh, well, my dad died and I inherited it. And they may be neglecting the fact that they had 3 siblings and 1 sibling that died that left 5 kids. So these are important questions to ask. Another way a house may be owned is by a trust. If you're thinking of selling your house and you know your house is actually owned by a trust, you'll want to check on the status of the trustee so someone is available to sign at closing. One concept that has gained popularity in Texas is the use of a revocable or revocable, depending on how you want to say it, revocable transfer on death deed. This is used when more than one person owns the property. One of the owners signs a document that can be recorded. It's just a preemptive transfer that says, hey, while I'm living, I still own it. But in the event of my death, here's the deed part. Typically, when acting upon that by a sale or taking out a loan, the party who survives must simply present a death certificate to show that the transfer is to be effected. So here's a practical situation. A single woman decides to sell her house that she inherited from her father, but never did any sort of probate or checking to make sure that the deed was in her name. She was able to change the property tax records so they show up in her name alone, but she never probated her father's will. There's another beneficiary named in the will who is also this owner's brother. Since she was the favorite child, she just assumed she owned all of it. And when selling the house, the title company contacted her and said, whoops, you're not the only owner. Now she's got to find her brother and deal with him about a transfer, which probably should have been handled soon after the father's death. The purpose of this message is to avoid that call from the title company and to have the freedom and flexibility to deal with your house on your own.